question many parents have about the PHAA diploma is, why in the world and how did we ever come up with this seemingly arbitrary requirement that for an English course every year of the program, students need to document in their portfolio that they've read 25 books and 3 of them need to be classics. It seems arbitrary, and people they don't know what a classic might be. So let's talk about that. I'll tell you how it got started. When my husband was first coming up with his first list of guidelines for our proposed diploma program, shortly after the homeschool law passed, he realized that one of our real goals was to make sure that our graduates would be literate, that they would be strong readers. And we didn't want to demand that students read certain books, but we did want to set a sort of a quantity idea so that students were reading a lot. And we wanted to ensure that there would be some quality considerations also on that book list. So it was a little bit arbitrary. It was a nice even number, 25 books and 3 classics. That was the original plan, and we've stuck with it. People should know that there are a number of ways that this can be molded to fit a family. First of all, just on the number, we're not expecting that War and Peace would be considered equal to Animal Farm. The one is very, very long. The other is a classic, but very, very short. And so generally our evaluators will say that a very, very long book, especially a long classic, can count for 2 books and maybe more. Maybe using a rule of thumb that 250 pages could be a book. A short book is a book. We're not going to say it's only half a book, but a longer book could count for more. We also very early on came up with a plan because we knew some families preferred using a literature anthology, and that many of those readings would all be classics. They would all be good quality readings, and we didn't want to say that was just one book. And we made a decision that an anthology, reading broadly in an anthology, would count as 10 books. So then the student would need just 15 other books. And we also realized that many families are doing a lot of Bible reading, and that this is a very important part of their program. And so one of our equivalencies is that the family could count up to 10 books of the Bible, as long as they're not the real short ones, as books. The book of Genesis could be a book. The book of Matthew and the Gospels could be a book. Up to 10 books. More than that, you're going to need to start counting other books. But this seemed to be a good compromise. And many people have taken advantage of all these ways of being flexible with the counting. We also recognize that not all of our students are strong readers. The PA Department of Education, when we first were developing our ideas for our diploma program, and they were beginning to come up with what their policies would be on recognizing these diploma granting organizations, one of their first things they said to us was, what are you going to do for students with special needs? There has to be a way that they can also earn your diploma. And we were a little surprised, actually, that that was one of their main concerns. And so right in our guidelines is the idea that this requirement of 25 books and 3 classics can be adapted as needed for students with some special needs or who might be dyslexic. Some of those adaptations could be things like listening to books rather than reading them independently, listening to them read aloud by a parent, or listening to them on a high-quality audio version. And this also met our need for flexibility and still setting some clear parameters for students and families and evaluators. Also, we want books to be books that a student can read. the ones that they're reading independently. We want them to be books they can appreciate and read. We don't want people sort of, in a sense, pretending to read Moby Dick when they're a 9th grader and it's way beyond them. We want people to be choosing quality books, but books that are suitable for them where they are as a reader, stretching them, but not tromping on them. And we make this clear to our evaluators too. Again, we're trying to set flexible goals, but goals nonetheless, so that families can feel that they still are the ones in charge. And working with their evaluator, they can shape a positive book list that will be appropriate for their student, for their family values, maybe their religious values, and still meet our goal of helping the student demonstrate that they're literate, that they've read widely, and that they're ready to move into their adult life with a good core of reading behind them. One thing that I hear often from families who have been involved in homeschooling, maybe been in our diploma program, and now for one reason or another, their children go into school at the high school level. And one of the things that they notice right away is that generally their kids simply have no time to read, and there's not much expectation that they read much. And we view it a little bit like this 25 book requirement is one of the hallmarks of our program, that colleges, especially those in Pennsylvania that have had a number of our graduates apply, they're becoming aware of this guideline that we have. They know our students are going to be well read. They've read a lot. And this becomes something that also helps students be self-initiators, because usually in whatever classes they might be taking, say with a homeschool co-op, they're not going to be asked to read 25 books. There's going to be a sizable portion of those books that will need to be the student's choice. And that's good for kids to choose what books they read. And this gives kids a chance too to read in areas where they're interested. My second son was not very interested in literature. Some of his literary classics were ones I read aloud. But he loved reading about chess. He loved reading about computer programming. He loved reading about other sciences. And so this open-ended requirement of quantity both stretched him to read enough and let him count books that were in his strong interest areas. So I don't think that parents or students should be worried overly about this requirement, but they should view it as an avenue to stretching their kids to do more than they might have done before, to keep track of it in a responsible way, and to meet it in a meaningful way by finding books that really speak to them and resonate with them well.